Hello, and welcome to a tutorial for players of Natural Selection 2 interested in playing Commander. This tutorial I'm going to cover building structures and important key points about using those buildings and structures in playing as a Marine. Right now I've entered Explore mode and we're going to go over these buildings. You could do this yourself in the game by going into Training, and one of the options is Explore. So obviously I'm not here to cover every bit in detail, but more along the lines of for people who are really interested in calming to get them jump started. So I'll do a quick overview. In Explore mode, you can see obviously we have the command chair, we have the infantry portal, we have a prototype lab already built, extractor, armory. All these things are already pre-built in the game. If you look at our map, there's also another base in flight control. This is the Explore mode preset. You can see ventilation is also built. So what I'll do is get in the command chair and we will review what the tech tree and buildings are doing. Obviously, as a commander, and let's say you've played for quite a while now, or a day, whatever, and you've got your field time in, killed a few skulks, but you're really interested in playing Commander. Now, something that you might find frustrating, that a lot of people I'm sure do playing the game these days, is you go into a server and no one comms, and probably you lose. I've been playing a few pub games lately, and yeah, it happens. In fact, most of the time, it's almost like you'll get a lot of cases where there's no comm on either side, and whoever decides to jump in the chair ends up being the team that wins. So in this case, in this setup, we've got one IP. A lot of times, depending on the number of players you have, it's my opinion, as soon as you breach 6 players on your team, it's a good idea to start getting another IP out. These lower games like 4 people, it doesn't really make a difference too much to have an extra IP right away, but it's also a really good idea to drop another IP or infantry portal as soon as possible, just because a skulk rush, they'll likely take down your IP, and from there you're kind of in trouble, if not potentially lose. So an IP is very important. It's a really good idea to get another infantry portal up in another base, because then therefore if you don't have a phase gate to get to transport there, then that infantry portal will allow players who recently have died to spawn there and begin work. In this case, what I'm also going to do, just to kind of help me out, I'm going to build a robotics factory. Now, why would I build a robotics factory in-game for real? Well, for a couple of reasons. A robotics factory, it contains mechs and arcs. Okay, mechs are your little mini robots that will repair things and will also build things for you. They are not soldiers, although they have some interesting abilities like EMP. There's some interesting complaints about EMP not being used enough in game, but it's kind of the equivalent of Enzyme on the alien team, in a sense of that tree or that branch of the tech tree. Enzyme will essentially kill off any adrenaline that an alien has, and therefore they're easy targets. They slow down, etc. So that's one of the things that you get as an advantage for having a mech. You also you can increase their speed of ability, which I almost always do. You can then also upgrade your robotics factory to deploy arcs. Well, if you haven't seen arcs yet, arcs are essentially siege weapons, and they're very effective, but they're also super vulnerable. You can't just walk one all the way across the map and expect it not to get destroyed by an alien. But you can do so in a group. You can have one arc help out as a support, and it will massively improve your chances of taking down a hive quicker. But again, all of this costs res. So why would I do this? Well, in this case, I suggest almost always, if you've got, depending on how many players you have playing in the game, if it's a small number of people, it's always really good to have a robotics factory up for a bunch of reasons. One, you can also build sentries or sentry batteries, and therefore sentries. You cannot build sentries without a robotics factory in play. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to go ahead and build this in order to help me demonstrate this tutorial. obviously the Explore mode allows me to build a lot faster. And we're going to go ahead and set a waypoint for my Mac, and we're going to build it real fast in the tutorial. And meanwhile, I'll also upgrade its speed, and it's going to make its way. You can see him on the map down here, making its way across the map all the way over to flight control, which it will then, once it gets there, it finds the next most needed task nearby for it to do, which in this case is to build a power. And there it goes. Okay, so Macs are super effective in certain types of gameplay where, one, you need it to do something for you, and two, you need it to you need basically support for your exos, and even support for your Marines. They repair their armor on the field. And again, you know, if you're going to be playing as aliens on the other side of things, Macs are a pain. They're a super pain in the butt because you really need to kill them off before considering even trying to kill something else. Because if you don't, they just keep repairing you know, whoever's there, and it makes, you know, exos really hard to kill. Now, this Mac just finished building the power. I'm going to go ahead and have it come build this power as well. I don't have to click on it. It'll just go there and do it. But I can also click directly on it to do that as well. So far we've covered Robotics Factory, what you can do with the Robotics Factory, obviously covering what Macs can do. Boom, the Mac just finished up. So you can also do the other things with the Mac. If you click on a Mac and it says out of range. Well, this is actually a good thing to show you. It said out of range for a reason. And the reason why that is because early on in the game, if you just took a Mac and told it to go build something, it became very difficult and very confusing because you may have forgot to click on a human. So it's more about, oh, look at this. I can't build it because there's something there. Haha, okay. There's an alien infestation here. Let's see if there's one over here. So Macs can actually be scouts. What do you know? Okay, that's another thing to be considering as well. But they cost you 10 res, so... Now, I don't know if you picked up on that, but I just clicked on the power node and I socketed it. This is actually a very important tactic to use as a commander in gameplay, because when you drop a res node immediately, what ends up happening is if a alien comes through and decides to kill off what you just dropped, like let's say this res node, let's say right now actually it isn't even powered, if they came in here and killed this off, you never got any res for it, but you lost everything that you spent on it. So it's always a good idea, if you really have time to think about it, to build the power node first. Let your team build that. Then as soon as they're just about finished, go ahead and build this. It will increase your chances of being more effective, because if you don't know where the aliens are and they're inbound to this location, for example, if they kill off this Mac before it can build a power node, this res node is basically rendered useless. It's basically been a complete waste. So typically when I'm playing as COM, in this case, let's say if we just started off, I will likely socket the power nodes first on both sides, wait till my team gets there, wait till they finish it, and then immediately drop the res node to encourage them to build them in that order. I always say power node first, guys. Power node first. And it's really, you know, may not mean much most of the time, but when it happens to you that you lose out on your you know, like that res node that you were trying to build, it can be quite frustrating. So I'm going to try to come in here and I'm going to show off sentries. I'm going to see if I can build a sentry battery. Okay, so it's going to let me build a sentry battery. That will help me take down any cysts nearby. And I will also go in and upgrade the robotics factory here. And I'm going to deploy an arc when I get here just to kind of take things down. Now again, I'm not using any Marines to do all this, which is probably the wrong thing to do, because you really need to be more centric around supporting your Marines and what they do. It's a lot in fact, not building sentries or any arcs is actually a good idea if you have a large team, because your teammates are going to be what's on the field doing the work for you most of the time. And spending res on things like sentries and a robotics factory can be a little bit it can kind of backfire on you because you've spent that res on that. I'm trying to drop this. It's not letting me drop it. As you can see here, this circle is centered around a sentry battery, which that sentry battery then will allow you to build sentries within that circle. Now this guy is going to decide to go all the way around. You'll find max can be quite frustrating in their pathfinding, but that's kind of the way things are sometimes. Now I upgraded my robotics factory, and now I'm going to deploy a arc, and it's going to go over there. Okay, so and that's going to end up eventually going to clean it up. I think this guy is not able to target what it's pointing at. I'm going to scan here and see what I have available. Right, it's taking down this from a distance, which sentries can do that, but as you can imagine, an arc will do it way better. In fact, let's see what we've got in here. I'm actually going to go ahead and recycle these guys. It's another thing, if you, as a comm, keep in mind there is a lot of tactics in recycling. You don't get back your full amount of res, but if you have the chance to recycle, it's probably a good idea. So I'm going to move up this arc and then deploy it. Now arcs can't fire on anything they can't see. So if a Marine is not in line of sight of anything, it won't fire. So you have to scan reasonably constantly. So I'm going to go ahead and take this down. There's only one battery allowed per room. Now you can see that the arc is not firing now. And the reason why it's not firing is because it can't see anything. Well, it's going to seem silly, but I'm hoping I'm going to build a observatory. Well, sometimes there's some bugs. So what we're going to do instead, I'm going to go ahead and build a sentry battery instead. But if you build a if you build an observatory, that observatory's line of sight will also allow for the arc to see what's going on. In this case, this is probably placed in a bad location, so I'm going to go ahead and remove that. And again, I'm going to put some sentries up here and there. It'll work on that, and then we're going to scan. And now this arc will start firing again. Now the arc will not fire on the eggs. It will not, at least as far as I know, it won't fire on eggs, but it will fire on structures including hives. You can see now it's firing again, even though there's nothing. Oh, see, it stopped firing because it couldn't see what was there. So you have to keep scanning for an arc to be effective, or you have to have a Marine line of sight. I'm curious if I can get this thing to build a... I can't get it to do it here. Keep scanning. Let me see if I can try and get this thing. There we go. Okay, now it's finally going to build an observatory, which will make it so I don't have to keep scanning. Now, how would I normally use this in gameplay? Well, some maps will allow you in such a way that you can put like for example, putting a observatory in the corner over here when assaulting the hive will obviously improve your chances of just automatically seeing something going on. And you can see now it's continuing to assault. Now I'm only building one arc here just to show off. So I think I'm going to go ahead and conclude this video as a demonstration of the robotics factory, and I'll make a continuation video for the rest of these buildings.